Oh dear, that's not terribly bright, is it? Oh, that's better. Yeah, that'll do. Well, there, that was a little shocking in the dark there. I'm in a sort of a dark room in the house today. I've got all the lights on, but it's in the basement, so it's a little different. Welcome to another Word of Gord. Average Folks in the Afterlife, number 31. And we're continuing with Jürgen Zhu's marvelous Vistas of Infinity. Now he's getting to the higher planes here, and it's all quite marvelous, and something you should be aiming for yourself in your own explorations. There's nothing quite like the miraculously creative aspects of the upper astral lower mantle planes. Quite marvelous. And here's an evocation in a chapter called Thought Cities from September 2011. I took my wife to her counselling job and then went to the supermarket to do some shopping. Standing in the queue at the checkout, I felt the urge to get home quickly and enter my meditation room. As soon as I felt my impatience, an inner voice told me to relax and let go. At that moment, everything became still around me. All urges and needs dissipated. I felt an incredible calm, as if I had been taken out of time and placed in a no-time zone, where this concept of need no longer existed. I noticed that all the people in the queue in front of me appeared to have been similarly taken out of their time zones. They were chatting to each other, and the cashier was friendly and conversed with the customers as if they were old friends. Suddenly I felt a powerful sense of belonging and incredibly privileged to be part of this human community around me. Here we all were, living in the moment, paying for our goods and being part of an intangible yet very present consciousness. Every person appeared filled to the brim with this present awareness. I felt an overwhelming love for everyone and tried to contain the deep rapture I felt rising within, which had been building up all morning. I was on the verge of letting it overwhelm me, and the only way I could stop it was by opening the heart gates and letting the energy flow into the environment around me. When taking my shopping to the car, I felt I was already home, at a more authentic home than my own house. The serenity surrounding me was tangible. Everywhere I looked, I felt a buzzing spiritual energy. Every particle was alive. Everything my senses touched had a powerful presence, infused with intelligence and primordial consciousness and being. When I arrived home, I unloaded my shopping and stored it away. Every movement, every hand gesture was performed through me by a presence which knew of an underlying significance I had never before considered. I felt an incredible gratitude that I had a house, food to eat, and a place I could retire to and express my thanks in meditation. I went into my room and sat down. Closing my eyes, the light was already there, a powerful manifestation of the stillness which had carried over into my meditation. I passively watched and waited to see how it would unfold as I surrendered to the light. All around I saw incredible vistas of luminous lands emerging, heavenly plains opening up in an unexpected complexities, richness and varieties. I was swept along by a sublime sound current, which did not arrive via my ears, but from an infinite realm far beyond the land I was travelling through, beckoning me to follow. It was a haunting melody, enticing me to let go and transfer control to a force I knew had my best interest at heart. I followed obligingly, being swept away over wide open fields, which led into a vast delta landscape made out of a repeating paisley pattern, all covered in exotic plants of unknown species. I then took a side turn following the melody into an open valley, carved out by a river flowing through it. The valley was hemmed in by steep crystalline rocks glistening in an abundance of precious stone. Big boulders broken away from the rock, studding the landscape like enormous jewels. I saw living emanations, protuberances coming from the rocks and reaching out towards me as I passed by. I was attracted closer to the river's surface because its enriching sound was irresistible and mixed so perfectly with the melody I had been following. Eventually the stream branched out into many arms, filtering into a vast delta, carving out tiny enclaves and so creating a giant tapestry of intricate designs. The type of vegetation on the little islands changed from exotic flowers to clusters of flowering trees of a completely new and alien species, forever changing and evolving into new varieties. None of this felt strange, and despite its unusual appearance, I knew I was on home ground, feeling a persistent and continuous sense of welcoming. As I progressed, the light increased. I felt as if the light was descending on me from above, like a great loving hand bestowing a blessing. A deep sigh rose up from my heart as I received a shower of rainbow sparks raining down from a space of light above me. The touch was most gentle but increased until I was encased by a luminous light, which let me know the reason I was here. I recognized it as the same light I had felt in the morning when I woke up, before I spoiled it by considering how to earn my worldly keep. It was here telling me of a superior reality, and reminding me that whatever I had considered to be important were simply thoughts with no material relevance or substance, and that, without me concerning myself, everything had already been taken care of. Where I was now was my destiny. Now there was peace, and I felt it spreading from this point throughout the whole region, leaving behind a quintessential sense of being. I then became aware of my position in my meditation chair. I felt a heavy but not unpleasant pressure on the top of my head, and when I opened my eyes the room felt strangely lit up. Light was all around me. I closed my eyes again and was instantly back home where I belonged, at the heart of it all. Suddenly I remembered why I was here, and the thought, like a command, came to me. Take me to the cities. Instinctively I was instantly pointed towards a vast horizon. A gigantic lotus flower emerged in the distance, rising out of the glorious mists, which was the diffused light of an unworldly dawn. It was a city designed in the shape of a lotus blossom, symmetrical petals arranged around a luminous core. Around the outer perimeters were countless morphing shapes of light and a million of sparks buzzing around like bees trying to extract nectar from a blossom. These were all people, individual souls. Each petal had distinct features and colours that percolated through different shades. I could have easily joined the swarm to discover more about the individual souls and the inner sanctuaries of their dwelling places. Instead, I asked to be taken to another city and was instantly directed towards a huge swamp. The edges were lined with exotic trees, behind which a tropical rainforest covered everything as far as I could see. The light had a pink tinge, like worldly evening light, but for evening it was much too bright. The waters were crystal clear, and I could see another world emerging beneath its calm surface. Then, ahead, I saw a glow surrounding a huge organic egg-shaped structures growing out of the ground and resting on an ornate island inside a lagoon, like a nesting ground of a giant dragon. The island was covered with different clusters of spheres around a larger center, hundreds of domes of different shapes, colors, and designs, yet all hanging together, harmonizing and complementing each other. This too was a city, a vast information centre. Each large dome, the smallest being at least hundreds of meters in height, formed a vestibule of knowledge and was frequented by swirling lights. Each part of the city was connected via enormous arched tunnels. I was amazed that I could see the inside and the outside simultaneously, as well as being able to connect instantly with all the minds that populated this living structure, getting an intimate understanding of why they were here. Their commerce was knowledge, socializing, benefiting from each other's experience and presence, and merging consciousness, souls and minds. My vision began to expand. I could suddenly see the whole world at once. I was no longer located in one place, but my mind encompassed everything, the vastness as well as its detail. My mind had transcended its barriers. I saw and understood everything about this world I was a visitor of. There are more and bigger cities here than on our physical planet. We are a social species that fulfills nature's purpose best by working with and for each other. The cities here are luminous regions with sublime architecture, generally radiating out from a great centre, which sometimes features a temple. They can be the dwelling places of highly unfolded individuals who are in constant exchange with the unity consciousness on the highest level. Their occupants are the most sublime and enlightened souls who reside in a permanent state of absolute realization of consciousness, having become the living conduits for it to disperse its blessings and power. The many palaces and buildings are, in a way, like reflections of the people who manifested them. Their design and appearance give an indication of the occupier's personality and characteristics. They are a reflection of their spiritual power and realization, as well as their individuality. Water. When a visitor enters one of these central temples through the main entrances, they will instantly become beneficiaries of the energies focused inside and be made aware of the sublime atmosphere in store for them. Entering such a temple through the entrance hallway with its rich pattern sees light seeping through every crevice and indentation, through the patterns of the arched walls and ceilings. The light seems to be intent on unloading its powerful force, preempting some of the blessing to be bestowed upon the visitor before they enter the inner shrine. That's the phone, but we won't answer it. Inside the main sanctuary, the glory of the edifice becomes overwhelming, and the visitor will have to be well prepared. Shafts of light break through window openings in the ceilings and walls and focus on the central point within the temples. On entry, the sounds to be heard here can be anything from truly angelic choirs to sublime celestial songs. I often wondered who or what produces these, but it is simply a natural vibration link from the visitor to the sympathetic part of the cosmic database, which is triggered by the atmosphere and then released upon the visitors. Sometime the whole hall may fill up with hundreds or even thousands of welcoming thought forms of angels or human beings, attracted and generated by goodwill and abundant love, to welcome the worshipper as if they were the most important being in the whole universe. These types of manifestation are not restricted to such temples and can happen anywhere. Once the visitor is tuned in and their heart surrendered and opened up, they will be greeted by a presence, which may be just that, a powerful presence or an awareness of a being without any visible form. Alternatively, it may manifest as a sphere of liquid light or as a radiant being with refined human or angelic features or godlike appearance. The worshipper's powerful devotion may even attract the essence of their chosen avatar of their religion, which may manifest right in front of them, purified in the form they always imagined as a pure conduit of the highest consciousness, streaming in and filling the divine vessel from beyond. At the point of contact, the worshipper may be transformed, and the temple itself may take on a different appearance. They may be swept away and transported by their avatar into a consciousness unknown. Most people meeting these exalted beings no doubt will behold them as God and will likely be overwhelmed by its presence. They may unite with its ecstasy. People who have come this far and have only once entered such places of power will never see their earthly place of worship with the same eyes again, whether it is a cathedral, a church, a mosque, or a temple. Celestial city centers don't have to have such edifices as their central landmark, although they frequently do. They can be also vast open spaces with fountains or monuments, buildings where counselors reside, a place of aesthetic beauty or art, a lake, a precious jewel, an open playing field, or a concert hall. But it is usually a landmark of a sort which reflects the character of a community and its citizens. Here, more than anywhere else, prevailing atmospheres attract people of similar inclination and leanings, and everything is harmonized in accordance to their energies. There is no decision-making involved of where to live, only the instinctive pool of sympathetic forces. The moment we move further away and take a broader view, we see that everything is arranged in the most beautiful cosmic tapestry, where every aspect of our human nature is catered for to perfection and arranged according to the principles of cosmic order and synchronicity. There are more cities in these higher dimensional realms than there are on Earth. Think about that for a minute. Cities differ enormously in character and design. Some follow a layout of a vast symmetric pattern, like a lotus flower or a mandala. On the peripheries of these cities are many other wondrous buildings created by inhabitants who are nourished by the aspects or the prevailing energies, which help them to unfold and explore their own individuality. Because each individual's core aspect is unique, we will find that every city in these immense regions will be totally different, attracting into itself unique mentalities, stimulating development and progress along the chosen lines to the highest state of accomplishment. In the suburbs of these cities, we will find individuals residing at various stages of spiritual or intellectual unfoldment, who seek their nourishment according to their states of consciousness and individual needs. Every building they occupy is a close representation of their character, but because the neighborhoods are made out of people who are attracted by the likes and preferences, we will find the styles of their dwellings are always in harmony and keeping with each other, even though the appearance of each may be oddly unique. It is the atmosphere expressed in color and the different variations of the same original determining shape which gives them harmony. But people don't just gravitate together in large cities. There are many much smaller communities, just as there are here on Earth, and there are even very solitary dwellings. There are hermits tucked away in unassuming huts. Places may be very modest, or inhabitants may not even choose any abode at all, as the prevailing atmosphere is one of being home, truly and finally being home, regardless of which part of these infinite realms of the superdimensional territories you may visit. There is no limit to the choice of places where inhabitants may choose to pitch their dwellings, from spectacular residences carved into crystal caves to floating islands in the air, in the oceans, or palaces beneath it. Anything that can be imagined will find its perfect manifestation within this infinite world of the mind, where the most sublime thoughts turn to tangible, actual reality and superconsciousness. Some inhabitants draw no attention at all and live humbly and modestly their meek lives, directing their attention and love towards more needy places, or in the opposite direction, the higher realms, while claiming no benefit for themselves. Sometimes their only purpose is simply to surrender to the creative currents and observe passively the manifestations nature provides along the way. Interests in groups are as varied as they are on Earth. Some are the cosmic travelers who journey endlessly and tirelessly from town to town, land to land, planet to planet, and universe to universe. They spend their eternities traveling from place to place and enjoy the idiosyncratic lives of the different and diverse cultures that can be found. They are the messengers, the communicators and troubadours, bearing witness of other cultures and different realities. They stage life events, projecting their massive thought forms onto public places to give testimony of their adventures. You don't have to travel far, though, to encounter strange new realities, and most former earthly dwellers are content to assemble their families around them into small communities. Others gather in groups of affiliated interests, celebrating their affinities as well as their differences. Distances are often covered by instant projection because the mind embraces all. We can consider ourselves at any place by a shift of identification. Alternatively, we can drift, fly, or walk, simply surrendering ourselves to any of the many energy subcurrents that pass through the regions like the wind, or ride on the sound currents to be carried off into the worlds unknown, or even into the fold of our very origin if our heart compels it. I had previously learned, when my guide Philip introduced me to this region by showing me the work of an artist, how I simply merged into the object of attention and how easily it was to acquire new knowledge and experiences simply by looking at pictures, for example. We can embark on specific journeys in similar ways. Equally, this type of focusing applies to everything else: works of art, music, a pattern, a thought, a design, a color, a feeling, the sound of a brook or the song of a bird. Everything, when focused on, can open a transporting vessel into its inner mystery, because everything is connected to us very intimately. We can become what we see. We can enter a plant and follow its growth, enter its life stream and watch it evolve. That is also the way the Akashic records are assessed here, more directly and more simply than on the astral regions below. A simple query, thought, or clue can instantly connect to any historical event or any one of our own past lives by accessing our personal pattern. In my earlier book, The 10-Minute Moment, I outlined a meditation which utilizes this principle of acquiring the feeling tone of a word such as love, unity, strength, and meditating on it to reach a higher state of consciousness. Once we have broken all our lower mental boundaries, we will enter the limitless regions of the higher mind. All these are our potentials, the blueprint for an evolutionary path. Whether we will access these powers at a future point in our evolution while still attached to a physical body will depend on whether we manage to survive as a species. We are just young and have barely taken advantage of our great potential. At least on our physical level, we are still blind, groping around in the dark, doing harm to each other out of ignorance and blindness towards our inner connection. I know this will change in time. We are only just beginning. Other species live in this reality on other planets, and some have succeeded. We have the potential power to succeed as well, the moment we throw off our ignorance and blindness. Another short episode from 2008, October, The Hall of Stillness. Jürgen's a great meditator, as you know, and here's some thoughts on his meditation. I started meditation at 6:20 a.m. At 1 hour After 1 hour, I experienced a series of visions and dreamlike images and entered a dream state, but almost instantly became aware in it. In order to establish full waking awareness, I focused attention on the ground right in front of me. Normally, it is by focusing on the minute detail that brings full waking consciousness about. But what I found in front of me was a continuously changing psychedelic pattern, which made it impossible to pick out any specific detail. When I looked around behind me, I noticed that the pattern extended to the horizon. But 10 meters in front of me, it fell off over a steep precipice. Beyond lay a large mirror-like ocean with colorful, sparkling ripples. Just as strange as the scenery was the atmosphere, which was nothing like anything I have experienced before. There are feelings which you recognize because we have a range of these feelings recurring throughout our lives. But this was new. It felt as if my perceptual feeling channel had just opened up a new spectrum of feeling experience with no precedence, a new entry into a catalogue of sublimity, a first and unrealized discovery of a new kind of sensibility. I could immediately feel the call from the singularity of consciousness and instantly and willingly surrendered to this new sensation. I allowed myself to be picked up and lifted into the air and began to notice that this feeling had motion and colour. Green and pink mists intermingled, and it had engulfed me, gently spinning me around in a transcendental, pleasurable dance. With this I entered a new kind of elation which gently carried me away. The experience came to an abrupt end when I found myself in front of a tall building, though the bliss still floated within me. I was still acutely aware of this rarefied feeling with its accompanying atmosphere. The building, though, had a strangely familiar tone, despite being elaborate and made out of a multitude of intrinsic patterns that would have been impossible to memorize. Nevertheless, there was a strange recognition as if I'd seen it before. As I approached the door, I felt compelled to refocus my attention to achieve greater clarity. I didn't want this to fall short in terms of its reality. Full clarity came easily, but when I pushed against the door, I passed straight through it as if it were made of air. Before me was a grand hall like a holy temple, massive columns rising on either side before extending into many archways. The architecture inside, as on its outside, was intricately patterned, but changing subtly as if the patterns had many layers that morphed and merged to reveal new permutations. All this was just in order to support a holy silence within these walls, a stillness that was unfathomable. A stillness that was unfathomable. And a thirst that seems to have no end. Well, more blissful transcendence from Jürgen, and thank you for that. And I hope it inspires you to further your own explorations. I know a lot of you are having these experiences of one kind or another, and sometimes they're short, sometimes they're abruptly ended, but I know you're having them, and I encourage you all to continue your explorations and not give in to cynicism or doubt or the usual kind of materialistic silliness, and recognize that we're all on a journey and we're all on different stages of that journey, but it's the same journey back to the source and all the wonderful landscapes and communities that we will encounter on the return journey to that source. And in the face of all the terrible unpleasantness that we have on this planet, let us remember that the astral planes and the heaven worlds are, if not just as real, more real than the unpleasantness that we experience here on an almost daily basis. And here is our little sojourn in the School of Hard Knocks. So let us take those hard knocks and stumble onward. Until next time, goodbye. There goes my finger to the button.